April 6th meeting of the Greater Clark County, August, April, whatever. August 6th meeting. Let's take it. Thanks for that. The August 6th meeting of the Greater Clark County School Board to order. Renee, would you please note that all board members are here except Katie Hutchinson. We have a missing person. We'll file a missing person report. I'd like to invite you to stand, please. Say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in honor of the people who have lost their lives this week to several acts of violence in our country. Thank you. First tonight we have some board salutes. Dr. Hartley.
Good evening everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight. The first board salutes is for our Air Force JROTC Unit IN061 at Jeffersonville High School for being selected as one of the 102 units out of 900 to receive the 2018-19 Air Force JROTC Distinguished Unit with Merit Award. This award recognizes Air Force JROTC units that have performed well above and beyond normal expectations and that have distinguished themselves through outstanding service to their school and community while meeting the Air Force Citizen Development Mission for America. The cadets gave back to the community with almost 1,500 hours of service. Their physical fitness and drill teams won multiple events during the year, and they completed 6 curriculum and action field trips. During their unit evaluation, the cadets exceeded standards in every section possible. In the district, the Pride Award is given to individuals or groups that exhibit persistence, respect, initiative, dependability, and efficiency. And tonight, we would like to present the award to cadets of the AFJROTC. They had an outstanding 2018-19 school year, and we'd like to recognize them for their performance and for all they do for the community, the district, and Jeffersonville High School. Cadet Jenna Lake, Corps Commander. Cadet Josiah Dunn, Vice Corps Commander. And Cadet Audrey Bentley, Operations Commander. And Colonel Benning, please come forward to accept this award.
I had the good fortune of visiting with Colonel Benning and his cadets last spring and was very impressed with what I saw. He does a great job. So we thank you for your service and thank you for what you do with the cadets and our students. Let's get a good picture here. Oh. Sergeant Manley, come on. Oh.
No.
Come on, you're here. You got to get the picture.
Can we introduce him?
Congratulations to Charlestown High School for earning SELS endorsement for our highly effective early college program. The school is recognized for providing rigorous course offerings to give students a jump start on college credits with outstanding wraparound supports. Created in 2001, the Center of Excellence in Leadership of Learning at University of Indianapolis serves as a leading convener, catalyst, and collaborator for dynamic, innovative education to change to dramatically impact student achievement throughout Indiana. To be considered for endorsement, the school prepared a portfolio that addressed the 8 required principles established by SEL including providing a rigorous curriculum, robust student supports, and completion data. In addition, a cell team visited the school to interview administration, teachers, students, and parents about the early college program and its benefits and challenges before designating the program as endorsed. Once a school receives endorsement, it is expected to further develop its opportunities and will be reviewed for re-endorsement every 3 years. The board salutes Charlestown High School. Please come forward, Charlestown's principal, Amy Cook, and Charlie Fraley from the Center for Excellence in Leadership of Learning to accept the district's Pride Award for this distinct honor.
And real quick, we now have 2 of our 3 high schools endorsed in Greater Clark. And I talked to Ms. Straight today from Jeffersonville High School, and they're going to pursue this endorsement also. So it's certainly a good goal to have for all 3 schools to be endorsed, and it's a great thing for our students to provide them the dual credits that we provide. So we're happy that this endorsement came through, and look forward to getting one more.
How prevalent is this in the state?
There's only about 20 high schools in the state.
That's
that
what I
have
thought. We have 2 of them.
Yeah. That's a good, very.
We beat out some of our neighbors.
Okay, and our final board salute is 20 under 40. Southern Indiana Business Source magazine describes their 20 under 40 class of 2019 as, quote, young folks blazing their own trail of success in Southern Indiana. All individuals that receive this honor are deeply invested in making the community a better place, including our own Stephanie Andrus. Stephanie is a speech-language pathologist at Wilson Elementary. She stated in the magazine, our children need to be the priority of our investments in order to see continued growth in Southern Indiana. Thank you, Stephanie, for your continued support of our district and the youth of our community. And congratulations on your Southern Indiana Business Source 20 under 40. The board salutes Stephanie Andrus. Stephanie, please come forward to accept your prize.
Thank you all for coming, and you are welcome to stay with us for the rest of the board meeting, but those who are here for the board salutes, if you would like to leave, you may do so at this time. Okay, first thing I'd like to do is approve the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those, any questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, would like to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the previous meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have no public comments on agenda items tonight, so we will move to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Vice President, I would like to move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Anyone for a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Are there any questions or discussion about anything in the consent agenda?
It looks like from the personnel report, we've been very busy.
Yes.
Yes, so thank everybody for that. Are we ready? Are we all full?
Getting there.
In there, okay, we still have one day.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of the consent agenda as it is, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have no gifts to buildings. I think we might also put $1 up here. We'll move on to our action items, and our first action item tonight is the Memorandum of Understanding with Clark County Juvenile Probation.
Thank you, Board. We ask that you approve the Memorandum of Understanding with the Clark County Juvenile Probation. Last year, the probation department was able to have probation officers in each of our schools, secondary schools. Because of somewhat of an uneven caseload last year in terms of what they were dealing with, they've decided to pull that back in a little bit to where they're just going to have the probation officers out in our schools on Thursdays, but they'll still do intakes at any time that we want to call them. In terms of if the SROs call them, they'll still do intakes, come out to the schools. But on Thursdays, they will be in the schools. So Judge Carmichael and I met about a month ago. She asked that we do this MOU with not only Greater Clark, but each school system in Clark County. So we asked the board to approve this MOU.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the Memorandum of Understanding with Clark County Juvenile Probation?
Madam President, or Vice President, I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding with Clark County Juvenile.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. May I have a second?
Madam Vice President, I second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Buckwalter. Is there any discussion or questions on this?
Just clarification, and I think I know the answer, but on the second line, it says this agreement will provide a probation officer to Greater Clark 1 day per week. Does that mean one per school, not one for the whole district?
It's one per school. Yeah.
Thank you.
Multiple, yeah,
So,
yes,
so that should be it.
yes.
Plural. Probation officers.
Any other discussion or questions? All right. All those in favor of approving the Memorandum of Understanding with Clark County Juvenile Probation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, it's wrong button. Oh. Did you change the button? Okay.
Okay, our next action item is the choral accompanist for Charlestown High School and Charlestown Middle Schools for 2019-2020 school year.
Thank you, Board. I would like to recommend the approval of this contract for Charlestown High School and Charlestown Middle School choral accompanist. Ms. Sue Wrighthouse has been contracted for the last 3 years to assist as a piano accompanist, and which in turn allowed the choral teacher the flexibility to better interact instructionally with his students in small and whole group settings. There is no change in this contract from the past few years. And what happened, it was a good problem. It was just the numbers this year. There were so many students that wanted to be involved in choir that this addition was needed, which is a good problem to have. So, but to manage that many students, we needed this assistance.
I have a question.
motion to approve the choral accompanist for Charlestown High School and Charlestown Middle Schools for the 2019-20 school year.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the choral accompanist for Charlestown High and Charlestown Middle for the 2019-20 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or discussion? Dr. Blake?
Yes. On that, is that the same contract?
Yeah, there's-
Addition?
There's no change from the contract.
Are we limited to just a one-year contract, and we're using that individual?
I think the preferences do year to year because a lot of it depends on the numbers of students in those classes, in those sections.
Gotcha.
Well, we got to hear some of their product today at the opening day. The Scallywags did a fabulous job today.
They're excellent.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the choral accompanist for Charlestown High School and Charlestown Middle Schools for the 2019-20 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Did I hit it again, bro? You reposition that thing. I'll do better on the next one.
Our next action item is the Menard Atala agreement. Dr. Hartledge?
Yes, this is a continued contract with Menard Atala to provide Arabic translation for our students and families who speak Arabic across the district. The coordinator of ELL will contact Ms. Atala if services are needed. The cost is $11 per hour and it's paid out of the ELL grant.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the Menard Atala agreement?
I move to approve the Manal Atara agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the Menard Atala agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Did it get it?
Did it? Okay, our next action item is the Indiana School for the Deaf, Indiana School for the Blind transportation. Dr. Hartledge?
Yes, Board, this is a contract that we do every year. It provides transportation services for our students who are either deaf or blind. And it's to transport them to the Indiana School for the Blind and the Indiana School for the Deaf in Indianapolis. And this year, students from Greater Clark, they're deaf or blind, can attend the school for the deaf and the blind. In Indianapolis, West Clark Community Schools provides the transportation for the 1920 school year, and this overall cost is shared based upon the number of children that are transported. And each year, we alternate that back and forth, and it's something that we do each year to support these students. The cost will be paid out of the Transportation Fund 0410.
Thank you, Dr. Hartledge. May I have a motion to approve the Indiana School for the Deaf, Indiana School for the Blind transportation?
Madam Vice President, I move that we approve the is it MO? No, it's just a contract for the Indiana School for the Deaf and Indiana School for the Blind transportation agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. All those in favor of approving the Indiana School for the Deaf, Indiana School for the Blind transportation contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, our next item is the Tracy Montgomery Consulting Services. Dr. Hartledge?
Yes, Ms. Montgomery is a retired teacher of Greater Clark, and she will provide homebound services to students in need. Ms. Montgomery will have the ability to provide services during the day as opposed to just after school hours. And the cost for Ms. Montgomery will be paid from the Education Fund and is paid at $40 an hour.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the Tracy Montgomery Consulting Services contract?
I move to approve the consulting contract with Ms. Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. All those in favor of approving the Tracy Montgomery Consulting Services contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. And our next item is the John Sandry Consulting Services contract.
Yes, Board. Mr. John Sandry is also a retired teacher of Greater Clark. We're very fortunate to have our own come back and support our kiddos. And he will provide homebound services to students with intense behavioral and cognitive needs. Mr. Sandry has many experiences in working with students with behavioral challenges. He will provide homebound services after school hours, Monday through Friday. And Mr. Sandry is willing to service students who reside in locations outside of standard city limits that still fall within the district. The cost of Mr. Sandry will be paid from the education fund and is paid at $40 an hour.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the John Sandry Consulting Services contract?
I move to approve the John Sandry Consulting Services contract.
Thank you, Mr. Buckwalter. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. All those in favor of approving the John Sandry Consulting Services contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Our next item is the Kesi Head Start Agreement. Dr. Hartley?
Yes, this is part of our federal Title I dollars. And under ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act and Title I stipulations, the local education agency is required to maintain a collaborative relationship with Area Head Start program. There are no expenditures for this relationship. Rather, we provide services as needed for programs already in place. And the bulk of our responsibility comes from students transitioning at their 3rd birthday to provide psychoeducational evaluations as they relate to potential special education students entering preschool the following year.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the Kesi Head Start Agreement?
Move to approve the Kesi Head Start Agreement as submitted.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or discussion?
Do we invite the Head Start staff to our staff development?
We have not, we have reached, not consistently, but we have reached out to them in partnership on several different occasions for specific items. And I had a conversation with someone today, as a matter of fact. But we have worked with our local director on a couple of different initiatives in regard to trying to persuade legislators and making certain decisions, but also in other regards, but not consistently, but that's certainly something that we could do.
I think it would be a good thing to share our wealth of knowledge with them, because we're going to get those kiddos.
And we have done that a couple of times, but we could probably do more of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the Kesi Head Start Agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Our next item is the Alternative Services and Private Residential School Placement Agreement Resolution.
Yes, this is the final one. This resolution agreement is needed for special education excess cost contracts. These contracts are in place for students who require residential support outside of our district. Our district currently has 3 students in residential placements. This agreement will allow Superintendent Mark Luffner to sign the contract renewals as needed in place of School Board President Katie Hutchison. The agreement will be good through the 2019-20 school year, and the agreement will be sent to the Indiana Department of Education to be kept on file.
All those in, I'm sorry, may I have a motion to approve the Alternative Services and Private Residential School Placement Agreement Resolution?
Move to we approve the contract, the resolution to authorize to sign for this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Any questions or discussion?
I have nothing against it, but I do have a question. How do we end up with students that are outside our district that we're still responsible for? I'm curious, that's it.
They're severely in need students who we cannot provide the appropriate interventions. And so they have to be placed in a residential setting, and we provide educational support at that setting.
So does their residence not change whenever they're placed at that facility? All right.
And there's not always a guarantee they can be placed within their home
Right.
area.
I understand.
We also, when it comes to assessment time, we have had to go to these locations and test those students.
Have a question.
Yes.
So I'm just kind of unclear about in what situation would the superintendent need to sign the contracts versus the school board president? You'd have to come to us for approval, correct?
I am not exactly certain if that is, is it when they have to add
Well,
students?
so this is more like a time, the state requires that, it used to be the superintendent could sign, now they require board approval, and they're very time-sensitive contracts, where we have to have them to the state in order for the services and funding right to begin. So this was actually just recently provided in a professional development that Brooke Lannon attended, and she provided the guidance from the state advising us what we needed to do in order to allow the school board to authorize our superintendent to approve those.
I think it's similar, for example, when we have foster students who are placed within, who might all of a sudden be placed in our district, or outside of our district, but they were our students, and we still have to provide transportation, and we have to make an agreement and get transportation in place like in 5 days. And I think this is very similar. When students are placed in a residential setting, it has to happen pretty quickly, and if we are tied to having to wait for a board meeting to come up, it's a timing piece.
So they are signed but come to us probably after the fact, given the time constraints, but they still come to us for board approval, correct?
I am not certain. We'll have to clarify that.
If the board would prefer, yes, but as far as the state's concerned, they just need the superintendent's signature. It's always been signed by the superintendent, but now they need a board resolution for the superintendent to sign. And they were time sensitive. There were, a lot of times what happens is the end of the year. So the most recent incident that we had was a contract expired on June 29th. And in order to provide services, because the way the end of the school year fell, the DOE provided this guidance for us to take to the board.
What happens if it were to come to the board would decide, we don't want to sign this? I mean, the DOE comes in and says, you're going to sign it one way or another, basically, right? I guess that's what my thought would be. I realize that we're technically probably supposed to sign off on it as a board, but if it's basically,
The resolution takes care of, but I'm just,
if we're over a barrel with it with DOE,
yeah, I'm just.
I normally don't talk because, I'm not a but I did special ed before I became a superintendent's assistant. And when I was in special ed, the superintendent always signed its forms. A lot of them came through Benita 4 and everything, and we had to, the superintendent signed. And since I've worked for Dr. Bashner and Dr. Mellon, they always sign, because you only have days to get it back to the state. And so much of it is also electronic. And we just did, but now they just now all of a sudden changed the rules, and that was why, but you're not given much time whatsoever to get that done. And it's an automatic thing, like, we don't have a choice.
It's the DocuSign
Yes,
contract.
yes, yeah, and it's for our kids.
My concern is just how as a board do we know that we've got a contract out for services? You know, it never comes to us, and I mean, that's my concern. Is how, what process do we have in place for us to know? And because this is new, I don't know that we've ever.
We kept track of all of those they had to, you know what I mean? They need to know who's where.
Sounds like they didn't come to the board in the past.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I
So,
think we
These are
could
for
always
renewals.
bring it to you after the fact if it was put in place.
But, I mean, this is quite obvious, it's talking about renewals. So as you mentioned earlier, if the time lapses and they need additional time, someone's got to be right on that. So, it's not like, I mean, we haven't signed for any of these before, so, it's just authorizing him to do that, pays additional costs on
We don't think it's just for renewals though also. Well, Brooke attended this just a few days ago, so we can get some further clarification from her, but we were trying to get it in so we can bring it to clarify that. But it was directed, they were recommended to have this in place at all districts to be able to take care of these kids.
No later than September 30th was the deadline from the IDOE.
And we have, according to this, currently, we have 3 students in our whole district who are in the residential placement.
Correct.
Any other questions or discussion or? Well, all those in favor of the Alternative Services and Private Residential School Placement Agreement Resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, Dr. Harwich. I had said that we missed you last time because you didn't have anything to present.
I told you I'd make up for it.
You did, you did. Okay. And our next action item is MJ Insurance.
All right, thank you, Board. Over the last several months, the Insurance Committee has met numerous times to discuss renewal rates, and before and after some of those meetings, we've also discussed looking at new consultants for insurance and trying to find the best fit for us in terms of providers. And as a group, we have decided that we'd like to recommend approval of MJ Insurance, Inc. as our insurance consultant and the service fee agreement with MJ Insurance, Inc. While we realize the fee is a little pricier than our other consultant, we do think the services we will get from MJ will be very beneficial to the corporation. Their initial estimate, just by looking at some of our information, is that they can save us anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million. And we feel good about that by looking at our health, vision, dental, and also prescription medications. So we feel good about working with them. I've talked to several other school districts that use them. The feedback has been very positive in terms of the support they give. So I would make this recommendation to the board.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the MJ Insurance service fee agreement.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a second?
You can reset.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Any questions or discussion?
I have 2 questions.
No, you go ahead.
Have you had a chance to look at this contract? It didn't say that, I just wanted to clarify. And did we learn from our prior mistake with the Nice Lucan's contract? Is there a 30-day, or I see there's a 60-day, but is that 60 days and we stop owing you money monthly?
That's correct. This is a 1-year contract. The reason why we have a 2-year currently with Assured Partners was because of the reduction in the annual fee with them. So we were locked into a decreased rate for 2 years. But this one is a 1-year contract with the option to cancel within the allotted time frame.
Okay. And so if we give 60-day notice, we pay them for 60 days and then we're out. We don't have to keep paying them.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was on the insurance committee, and I think this is the right thing to do. I feel strongly it's the right thing to do, and thank you, April. I know we struggled over the wording of that, and it makes a lot of sense now. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I would like to say this. I want to thank you for allowing us to come in. And basically, it looks like that from what was said in that meeting is that there's some things that we weren't even benefiting from.
Yes.
So this, sometimes it's good to listen to someone different to find out what we've been missing. So again, I think the price may look high, but the savings comes and takes care of that price increase. So I think, again, I want to thank you for allowing us to sit in there and go through that.
Yes, thank you for inviting us, Ms. Perkins, even though you said we couldn't talk. We did
We're not
anyway.
official.
We did anyway. No, I really appreciate that, because it was a big decision. When you're gonna spend money, you're gonna spend more money than you were spending before. You really need to have a lot of questions and a lot of information. And April, also, thank you for making those changes. And
I would just like to thank the insurance committee members as well. They don't get a stipend for their time on that. They come in voluntarily. And sometimes it's a very tedious process. Insurance is not fun. So I just wanted to thank them for their work too.
any other questions or comments?
I have one comment in case anybody happens to be watching out there also. Yes, there is a higher cost, as I believe you pointed out to me from your conversations in the committee meeting. We have a guaranteed savings amount, which is shown on our documents, on board documents. So if they're not able to give us that savings, then that extra fee goes away. They absorb that.
Yes.
So we are being fiscally responsible with what we're doing here.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of approving the MJ insurance contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
So, Ms. Bonner, have we contacted our other agent of record?
I believe Dr. Daigle was going to talk to them today.
Already had a meeting
Oh,
yesterday.
Congratulations.
2 o'clock. I had
okay, thank you.
It was fun.
We want about time on pop or something.
It's not time for those comments yet. All right. We do have public comments on a non-agenda item. We have David Wimmer from Piper Jaffray.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Good evening. Not everyone knows me, so welcome. I thought it was important I come down and reintroduce myself in light of the meeting a couple weeks ago. The handout I just gave you, this is a booklet about my firm and myself and the history that I've had with the school corporation dating back to 2007 and the 16 bond issues I have done for the school corporation. Time is short, so I won't get into the overview of my firm, which is on page 10 through 14. I wanted to focus on page 4 going forward, and you can see the team that stands behind me when I do a bond issue. Starting on page 4, when you turn to page 5, you can see the services that we perform when we do a bond issue, most recently the one we completed last year. As it relates to the bond issue that we were engaged on this year in April, we've already completed the first 4 bullet points of the services listed. When you go to page 6, you can see the number of bond issues I have completed dating back to 2007, totaling $248 million. And what's important in the handout that I've given you is that as we prepare these numbers, there's a lot of variables in how you can come up with tax rates, things of that nature, and we've always erred on the conservative side. We've prepared a cheat sheet here of averages of the school corporation. This is a separate handout, 2-page handout, showing the averages of the tax levy, net assessed valuation, and the tax rate for the last 10 years. So when we calculate our numbers, we've done this for every bond issue that we prepared, we always show zero net assessed valuation growth. So that will make our tax rates, estimated tax rates higher than another firm that might come in here and show 4% growth for the next 10 years. So we've never done that, so our rates are going to be different as an apple and as an orange. But when you look at these averages, I think they speak for themselves of what they've done in the last 10 years and how they do change. And I don't have a crystal ball or where they're headed, but again, when we prepare numbers, and right there are 61 examples that we've been requested to prepare dating back in April for the new transportation center, the various scenarios and how we can structure it to minimize the impact to the school corporation and taxpayers of the community. So as it relates to the bond issues, knowing time is short, I give you other examples of bond issues that have been done in the marketplace and the cost of issuance associated with those bond issues, and you can see that your bonds were fairly priced and expenses associated with doing those issues came in below other firms that were out there doing the same thing. So the value-added services that we performed, if you go back to 2017, that was an issue of $19 million. Bids came in higher than we had construction proceeds. We were able to restructure the transaction and do premium bonds to fund an additional $800,000 in construction proceeds. That's one of the value-added services we did. In 2014, when the laws changed, we did 2 refundings that pushed the debt out an additional 5 years that allowed the school corporation to absorb the current debt service payment and apply it to existing capital expenditures they didn't have money for. So that was another value-added service. And then if you go back to my very first bond issue in 2007 and 2008, it was the 1st of December the DLGF called me, and that was the year the big bond issues couldn't get approved. We had a $90-some million issue sitting out there for 6 months. I was the banker I was contacted, went back to Dr. Bennett and to Ice Miller, the bond attorney, and I was advised that the bond issue was going to be cut by $15 million by the DLGF. We formulated a letter, sent it to the governor's office, we stopped the process. We then had a very short days to facilitate a $55 million financing. We did it, and then we did the second part of it for $41 million. And because of the foresight that we had and the wherewithal of the letter and what was prepared, that facilitated 3 high school renovation projects. So that's the value-added service I provided over the last number of years. And I just felt that it was important. I share that with you. You go to the next page, we've highlighted all the school debt, start to finish, and how it pays off. The examples that you see right there interweave various options that can be considered when you're doing a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year financing, and the impact of such. This is a document Piper Jaffray creates. We share with Dr. Deichel, and then we noodle on how best to put a new bond issue together to minimize the impact, taking into account market conditions as we know them as of today, and because I don't have a crystal ball what tomorrow will bring, what next week will bring, what next month will bring, let alone what next year will bring. And if you look at what happened yesterday, where the markets are off 770 basis points, and there was trillions of dollars lost, no one has any silence around the corner. So, last page, knowing the time's short. These are the advantages of working with me and my firm. And most importantly, if you look down at the very bottom, 2 squares. Last year, we ranked #1 in the nation in FA, underwriting, and private placements. I've enjoyed the opportunity to work with you, and I have been working with the business office since April on the transportation bond issue. And again, I just wanted to reintroduce myself and enlighten the board, the new board members and superintendent, of what I have done for the school corporation in the past. So thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions?
I did. This is just on that page 7, the light blue, it says common school on 432. See that?
Yes.
What is that? I
That was
mean,
a construction loan prior to me. That was the construction loan prior to me coming here. It was like a 20-year loan?
It says 19 and, oh, it was done and now it's gonna expire. Is that?
And
Okay.
that's not something we were a part of, that's what
Right,
we borrowed from the
okay.
state.
I didn't know what that was. And you said it was a construction loan?
It was like a $20 million construction loan that the corporation took out a long time ago.
Yeah.
We're still paying for it.
Yeah, so we have 2 more years.
There was a time years ago where the Indiana Bond Bank would go out and fund a bond issue and then put monies aside and the school corporation could come in and borrow it. And the logic back then was they could borrow it at a lower rate and then piecemeal it out to communities across the state. I'm sure that's how you got a portion of it. Today, with interest rates as low as they are, it doesn't make sense, and it's never been a better time to issue debt. And one last thing I didn't talk about, under the new rules and regulations, the maximum you can issue on a yearly basis without a referendum is $15,700,000. You go over that, and that is a referendum process. And we know from past how much fun that's not. So, again, thank you for your time, and are there any other questions?
I just have a comment, David. You came here in 2007, I came on board in 2008. You've always been very responsive, very, very professional, and then every time you come here, you're coming all the way from Indy. So thank you for your
Well, thank you.
service, and we appreciate the work you do.
I appreciate the opportunity to work with the school corporation, to find people that do.
Yes, sir.
It's always been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
You're welcome to review all these. Kill a few trees. Thank you. You want these?
Send me the electronic version.
Okay. Any board comments? Ms. Gilkey? Did we have, was that the only?
Yes, that was
Oh,
all.
okay. No, I don't have any comments. Okay. Ms. Perkins?
Just the opening day celebration today, and it was a celebration, I thought. Lots of smiling faces and happy people to get back into their classrooms. I know they've been in their classrooms 5 weeks, especially those elementary folk. And it was just a very nice program. Thank you. Short.
Mr. Hawkins?
I'd like to say that I know whenever we ran, all 3 of us, some of the things we heard was, we don't want to see a rubber stamp board. And we don't want just everybody coming in here and saying, oh yeah, we agree with everything. And it sometimes may look that way to the public, but as Dr. Dykle and Mr. Loeffner and Ms. Harledge can testify, I wasn't meaning to, but I kind of raked over the coals in emails today asking questions. So, and I'm sure the other board members do exactly the same thing. So for anybody that happens to be watching right now and thinks that we do rubber stamp things, I can speak from experience that that's not necessarily the case.
Thank you, Mr. Buckwalter?
I just want to thank Mr. Loeffner and the Greater Park staff. Everybody that had something to do with this opening day this morning was awesome. And I concur with Ms. Perkins that a lot of happy people and there's a good mindset out there. And I think that's really, really tremendously important for our kids. So thank you, Mr. Loeffner, for that, and the expediency as well.
And I understand you attended the kindergarten night last night, and you were given a new name, weren't you, or something?
Yeah, it was quite interesting, but I'm knowing all, they know me as, especially grandkids, so I don't know several little types of people.
Mr. Nono.
Yeah, Mr. Nono. But that was pretty interesting too. I'd never experienced that. Waiting in line, and everybody, they sorted their hand sanitizer, and they had their little school supplies, they had to put in little bins, and then find where their cubby was. That was pretty interesting. I did that. I was kind of more excited than the kids were, so anyway, it was awesome.
Dr. Clayton?
Well, if you plan to attend a lot of youthful programs, do you plan to do that? Make sure you get there on time, because you'll be standing in line outside and get on the inside. Again, I just like to thank everyone this evening. Mark, I want to thank you for getting things rolling for the new year and for you guys. And always remember, Tom, you get me, I'll get you. Okay.
You're my brother.
Yeah, today was great, the opening celebration. Lord, when you said you didn't have a big presentation, whew, that's it. You got the applause.
Concise and to the point.
And I didn't know you'd be the only one here, the only one staying. That's my mother. I brought her to the board meeting because I'm a cruel daughter. When she comes to comedy, she has a disclaimer. I didn't raise her like that, so hopefully she's a little more impressed with this. But anyway.
That's awesome.
Mr. Walker?
No, I really enjoyed the opening ceremony this morning. It was great to see everybody return. You know, and really, I want to thank the team. I mean, that's one thing that stands out to me, and I'm not trying to take credit for it, is the group of people that I work with, and Dr. Hartledge and April and Tom, and also Karen Wesley and Melissa Bauer have been excellent, and I hope that we can continue that momentum. So.
I did have one more thing about the opening day. The schools all wear T-shirts that match, like North Haven has their T-shirts and their color and their sayings. And it was really neat today. Janelle pointed out to me, look at the T-shirt from Spring Hill and Maple. They were the same T-shirt, and it had both of the school names on it with a plus, and it had equals Franklin Square Elementary. And then on the back, they have a, what did they say, rock and roll theme or
Musical songs about
Music,
coming
yeah,
together.
and all of the, I think they listed 4 or 5 songs, and they were all about coming together. So I thought that was really cool.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Second.
Oh, thank you. All those who would like to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.